back to A Well-Designed Business. My name is LuAnn and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company WindowWorks from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started.
Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. It's Power Talk Friday. And you just thought to yourself, what the heck, LuAnn? I know, I have laryngitis, but you know the show must go on. And I will tell you, it doesn't feel half as bad as it sounds. So we're going to power through. Today, Monica Froese is with me, and Monica has an ambitious goal to help 1,000 women earn $100,000 with digital products. And if you're like me, you might be thinking, oh, I wouldn't mind a piece of that, right? So today, Monica is walking us through her story of how she became an expert at digital products and how you can use digital products as a part of the sales funnel in your business. She is that kind of lady who is smart, savvy, and can pretty much accomplish anything she sets her mind to. And she uses this superpower to teach other business owners and entrepreneurs how to do the same. Believe me when I say you're going to want all the things she has to offer by the end of our conversation. And before we meet Monica, let's thank our show sponsor, Revel Woods, your choice for premium hardwood and resilient flooring. Using the Revel Woods tool selector, you'll be able to create curated suggestions for your projects that are catered to your client's home. When you sign up for a free professional membership, you'll get access to exclusive discounts and referral benefits. Go to revelwoods.com to get started. All right, let's meet Monica.
Hi, Monica. Thanks so much for joining me on A Well-Designed Business today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, I am literally, I don't know. I can't tell you. I have been all through your website. You are a powerhouse, which makes sense because your podcast, Empowered Business. Like it's just, the branding is perfect, Monica. That's all I could tell you. And it just seems like, it was like a kid in a candy shop for me. I was just like looking at all the things and I was like, I need that template. I need that download. And then when I read this line that you're committed to empowering 1,000 women to earn $100,000 through digital products. I was like, I want to be one of those ladies. And why do you want to do that?
Yeah. Oh, that's like, it is a very good question how I arrived at that. I'm trying to like piece together in my own brain, like why I settled on that. And I think what it really comes down to is I started in the online business world as what people might coin as a mom blogger under my brand Redefining Mom. So I connected with a lot of fellow mom bloggers in the early days. I started that blog in 2013, really not knowing what the heck I was doing, even though I have a corporate marketing background. I was in corporate for 11 years, but I didn't really know what I was doing online per se, even though I realized there was basically what I did in corporate. It's what you do online. It's very similar principles, but I didn't know that at the time. So I networked with a lot of other moms who had blogs, and everyone was monetizing in, different ways. But I would say the main ways that bloggers even today monetize are through display ads, which drive me nuts, and sponsorships, and then affiliate marketing. And the one thing that all had in common was you don't own any of it. Like you have no control over your own income. And through just being in that world for so long, one of the things that really dawned on me was these women know so much. I mean, by virtue of having a blog and attracting people to what you're writing, people are interested, right? And I kept thinking, but you're sending them away for pennies on a click on your display ads, or you're spending all your time working for these brands just for a payday that don't even really necessarily connect to what you're talking about. And then affiliate commissions, 4% from Amazon and it's just like it was baffling to me. And I'm like, why do you not create knowledge-based products based on the topics that you're attracting people to, which are digital products? And when I created my first digital product, it was in 2016. I had no idea that it was going to be called a digital product, that was going to be something people talked about on the internet at the time. It was certainly, I didn't realize that I was creating a digital product. What I was doing was I was creating a solution for my audience's problem, which is all a digital product is at the end of the day. And what it was my family budget spreadsheet. And it was kind of a really weird way that I got there. So I had this brand Redefining Mom born about postpartum and maternity leave topics, and created an audience without trying, because I was in corporate and going through my postpartum and did not have a lot of time. But I like to say that it was kind of easy to get found back then because there was a lot less noise. And so I got some really cool opportunities. Like I got to meet President Obama and tell him about my experience as a working mom in this country. Yeah, like really cool. And actually that was kind of the kickoff. So that was 2015. And that really got my mind working to realize that, wow, you know, maybe if the White House could find me, this could be a thing. just perhaps this could be a thing. And he called me a Spitfire and stuff because I figured, I don't know, I only had one opportunity to be in front of the leader of the free world. So I kind of let it rip about my feelings on things.
Goodness.
And he called me a Spitfire, and then he said, and what are you going to do about it? And I looked at him like, what are you going to do about it? You're the one that has the power, you know, like.
And wait, time out. Let me stop you. So what you're talking about was you were unhappy with the way maternity leave was structured for women and so forth. What you weren't unhappy about mommy bloggers. You were unhappy about what you were experiencing as a new mother. Am I correct?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So he's saying, so what are you going to do about it? And you're like, what are you going to do about it?
Exactly. Yep. And so then I left, and it just, from there, within 8 months, I'd quit my 11-year corporate career. And the intent was to bring Redefining Mom into a full-time income, which I was very confident that I could do. I don't know if I necessarily knew how I was going to do it, but apparently when I get a bug up my butt, I just roll with it. So I quit my corporate career. And so this was really weird, because Redefining Mom had this audience where it was all based on being a working mom, being empowered as a working mom, like being okay in your ambition to want to have a career, but also wanting to be present for your kids on your own terms. And so then I quit my corporate career, and everyone's like, wait a minute, why is the working mom lady over here quitting her job? What is going on? I'm like, whoa, I'm not quitting my job. I am going to build a business. Now, naturally, everyone's like, what does that mean? How do I do that? I'm like, well, I can't teach you how to do it. I haven't done it yet. And which I'm a firm believer. I don't teach things I don't actually have the skills to do.
That's a good policy.
Yes. And so I was like, I can't answer that yet. But what I could answer, since everyone was very much adamant, they wanted to know how the heck I quit my corporate job to even pursue this. And one thing I knew for sure was we have a kick butt spreadsheet that my husband and I had built, and it's what we call a very literal name, the family budget spreadsheet. And so I kept telling everyone, well, the first thing you have to do is have a handle on your finances. Like, especially if your family relies on your income, like mine did, you have to understand what's coming in, what's going out. You have to be able to project out. And everyone's like, well, how do you do that? I'm like, a spreadsheet. Like, this is just, to me, it was just like this natural progression into, they were telling me their problems, and I'm like, oh, I have the solution. And so I launched the family budget spreadsheet in June of 2016. I have done very little promotion on it, and it's made over the years $300,000. It's a $17 product. So this was the birth of the brand. And then from there, well, then I did get really good at I basically just kept rolling with the next problem and the next problem. And there was like a brief stint in there where I did have like a mini course. It was called Busy Moms Building on how I got started in the online world. And I had mentioned before we started recording, one of the things that I call it hijacked Redefining Mom, because I got really good at Pinterest. So Pinterest was exploding at this point for, I would say, free traffic to bloggers, right? It wasn't a pay to play platform at this point. It was sort of the newest thing after Facebook went pay to play. all those bloggers that were getting traffic off of Facebook were in a world of hurt. Either they basically folded or they needed to find a new traffic source. Pinterest was that place. But with my corporate experience, I did multi-million-dollar marketing budgets for very large brands like HP, Microsoft. This is ROI, return on investment. It's like my thing, but this was not a thing for bloggers. They sort of just were moms that had an idea and put it on the internet, and they didn't have this business background. Like I have my MBA in finance and marketing too. So like, I guess I underestimated how much I knew versus what people who were just like, hey, I just was doing this for fun and it actually became something, but now I don't know what to do with it, sort of thing. And so at the time, Pinterest launched their Pinterest advertising, like their ad platform. And I knew immediately I need to learn this because this free traffic where I'm getting all my leads from isn't going to be here forever. Eventually, they're going to become publicly traded. I worked for a Fortune 100, so I was very familiar with working inside of publicly traded companies and what that meant and how that would shift their business model and their priorities when that happened. Like when they got started, they were very friendly to content creators, right? Because they needed content creators on the platform. But I knew the writing was on the wall that they were going to go, and it was going to become all about who paid them. And it happened in 2019. But before that, I was pregnant with my second daughter in 2017. And this was a huge thing for me to be pregnant again because my kids are 5.5 years apart because of my postpartum. And I was ready to go on a serious hibernation. And a few of my blogging friends were like, you need to teach us how you're getting this targeted traffic. Because I always said, I don't worry about, as bloggers say, the page views. I worry about the conversion. I'm hyper focused on getting you to take an action once you arrive to me. And they weren't. They're just like, well, a bunch of people come to my site, but I don't really know what I get from that. I'm like, well, I know what I get. I'm going to get your email address or I'm going to get money from you. That's what I'm going to get. And so they were like, teach us your ways on how you do this. And I'm like, are you kidding? I'm going in hibernation mode. Well, I ended up doing a 20-person beta round of this Pinterest ads course. And people loved it. And so when I went into hibernation mode, everyone was asking how they could enroll. But of course, I closed the cart because I didn't have help in my business at this point. It was I had replaced my corporate income, but I wasn't really. I don't even think I might have had a VA doing some social stuff, but I mean, really, I wasn't having much help. And my husband looked at me. I remember my baby was on top of me, and he's like, why are you saying no to all this money?" And I had like this disconnect, but then I got invited to go to Pinterest 11 weeks postpartum, and that's straight across the country from me. And I was, a breastfeeding mom, but my husband's like, you can't not go. It's Pinterest. Like you have to go. This just changed. I would say, I think there's a term from a book. I don't know what book, about red ocean, blue ocean. Like when you're in the red ocean, it's a crowded marketplace. I was squarely in a blue ocean. Nobody was talking about Pinterest ads at this point, especially in the blogging market. So my course ended up exploding into, honestly, I don't even know the exact numbers it made over the 4 years. It was definitely a multi six-figure course. And I say that it hijacked my brand because, and this was how it ties to really the question you asked me about empowering women to create $100,000. Basically, at this point, 4 years in, I had this moment where I'm like, first of all, Redefining Mom was never supposed to be about Pinterest. I am good at this, and I know that, but I don't feel like I can make the impact that I want to make. And I really felt driven to make a bigger impact. And it felt so narrow, and I felt trapped by it, really. But we had just built a house, and I looked at my husband and said, hey, that top revenue source we have? I'm blowing that up. And he was like, excuse me, maybe you should have said that a few months ago. And I'm like, I'm just going to roll with it. And that's what I did. I sat down and said, what do I really like doing? And I'm really good at creating digital products that solve problems. And I do it on the mom side, and I do it on the business side. And I am great at teaching people how to read their numbers, their conversion metrics, to get better conversions and what to do with the numbers once. So, and I guess I have this knack. I've been told from my students many times that you make intimidating numbers seem very easy. And I think it might come from my lack of emotion to numbers. They're numbers, and they tell you a story, and you just have to be able to read that story that they tell. So empowered business came out of this because in a moment, and I would say my postpartum phase with both my kids was almost identical, 2.5 years. So it was September of 2020 that I really started feeling like myself again. But I was thrown because I was done having kids this time. Like the last time I wanted another kid, I didn't know how I was ever going to go through with it again because it was such a dark period for me. And this time I knew I was done. So when I emerged from postpartum, suddenly I was like, what is my life? What do I do with myself now? And part of that was I'm not happy teaching this topic. Redefining mom really was a movement type thing. Like I was so angry about the lack of maternity leave and how women are treated in corporate. I believe strongly in the working mom tax in corporate, and I saw it play out in front of my eyes. And I'm like, this is not serving the purpose of what I want to serve. And so when I evaluated what I was good at with creating these digital products, and along the way, even because when you get to paid advertising, you have to have a converting mechanism before that. And so what ended up happening was I'd get a lot of bloggers to me who wanted to run ads to get traffic. And I'm like, no, that's not why you run ads. You have to understand how you're going to make the money off of this traffic. So I ended up educating kind of for free a lot about a converting mechanism, which for me, it was always a digital product. I early on, I drew my line and said, I am not an expert in physical products. I'm not teaching that, because a lot of physical product creators would come to me as, no, I'm sure I could help you in some way, but I'm not an expert here. And so digital products I've got down. And so then I decided, what if I just taught that? And at my top of funnel, the people I could reach would be so much greater than the people who'd be ready for Pinterest advertising. I could make a bigger impact. That was my feeling going into empowered business. So that's what I rolled with. And it's been going well. I certainly make more money than I did when I was doing Pinterest. So I think it was a good decision.
So the thing is, I want to clarify something in there. The moment when you're talking about that Pinterest hijacked your business, and that moment where you look at your husband and you say, I don't want to do this anymore. What you're saying is that you started because you had a passion for redefining motherhood, right? Redefining what it was and how it was, and empowering moms and women to earn their own money, right? And then what happened was, you might have still been doing that. This is what I want to try and understand the nuances. You might have still been doing that, because if you're teaching a mom out there how to kill it on Pinterest, you're still doing that. But what happened was, if I'm hearing it correctly, the message became, learn how to kill it on Pinterest, as opposed to the message was, if you're a mom that experienced what I experienced, I want to help you get through that and out of it. And so when you say it hijacked it from almost like a branding and the calling card perspective, it hijacked because now you were known as the woman who could kill it on Pinterest and teach you how to do it. Am I on the right track?
You are on the right track.
Okay.
And I don't regret it at all, because I was highly referable, and it exploded my business. It put me on the map, and those connections still continue to pay off through the pivot to empowered business. I mean, some of the people I met through the Pinterest days are the people who came on my podcast and run $1 million businesses themselves now and told amazing stories. So definitely, it's not like I wasn't empowering anyone through what I was doing. It was just too narrow for me.
Right.
I just felt that calling, that it had to be bigger.
Well, it reminds me of like, if for a designer listening, right? So a designer starts a business, maybe they have this mission of they want to service healthcare boutiques, right? So they maybe they had an experience. We have Cheryl Janis, we have others that had experience as being a patient, and then and Tiffany White, her daughter, also. These are designers that had experience with the healthcare industry, and in Cheryl's situation had negative experiences in the environments that she was going through her recovery. And in Tiffany's experience, they had a positive experience where her daughter went through her recovery. But the reality is it's kind of like if I go into interior design because I'm committed to making design spaces connected to healthcare as the best and the most, nurturing they could be. And I get so good at it and I get so busy that the next thing you know, the president of this healthcare place asked me to do his home in the Bahamas. And then his buddy, has a woman who was the president of this company over in Tahoe. And the next thing you know, 3 years later, I'm doing amazing design work, but it's all for, the titans of business industry. And I don't remember the last time I redesigned a healthcare space. Is that kind of what we're talking about?
Yeah. That would really articulate it quite well, actually.
No, because I want to understand the through line. And so that's amazing. And the thing is, here comes the courage, right? Here comes the courage to say, this is all great, but I don't want to do this anymore. This isn't filling my soul, right? This isn't feeding my mission on the planet. And yes, there are some people that are actually probably women that are creating $100,000 incomes from what I'm teaching them on Pinterest, but I want to do that as my primary, this is my calling card thing. And so okay, so now I love all of this, and now you have pivoted to do this, and I want to now do bring it back to the interior designers too, Monica. So you teach people how to create digital products, and you start by, I love a couple times you said, what is the problem that people are talking about in your presence, whether it's in your website, in your physical presence, or in DMs and Instagram. For you, when you first started with the digital product, people were saying, how could you afford to quit your corporate job? And you explained to us, oh, well, because we put it all on a spreadsheet. And I love that. It's so funny because the things that we do super well, we don't recognize that other people don't have the slightest idea how to do them. And that's exactly my whole audience of interior designers. The ones that still struggle to charge their worth and to put their price point at where their expertise is are the ones who think, well, this is easy. I'm good at this and I want to get paid to do it, but what I do isn't that special. And it is very special because the rest of us don't know how to do it. And so I love that you had the aha moment that it was like, oh, just because I know how to do this, this is what they don't know how to do. So my question to you is, taking that to the designers, how do you teach somebody to start to hear those whispers of what is the digital product that you might create? And do you have suggestions on the types of digital products that designers might think about doing?
So I will say this, I have a knack for spreadsheets, and we sell a lot of spreadsheets and they always do really well for us. And now I think my audience is kind of trained to want spreadsheets from us, but I have to imagine that spreadsheets would be something really good for interior designers, like whether it's budget based, because every project's got to have a budget, right? I mean, obviously I'm not an interior designer, but I have to imagine every project has to have a budget. Even like spreadsheets too are not just necessarily about numbers. They're actually a really cool way. We did a whole workshop on this actually, where we taught people how to create beautiful looking spreadsheets. My ops manager did that part because I am the brains in like the terms of logistics, but I don't do pretty things. And like we use it for workbooks for our live trainings. And it's because you can use it on the computer, and everyone's like digital nowadays. So I have to imagine also like with layouts and stuff, like I'm going to put this in like layman terms for something I could understand. I built a new house and we always lived in a very small, I called it a shoebox. I always lived in small houses. And now I have this house and I'm looking around and it's all that Sherwin-Williams gray paint, right? And I have, a huge foyer that goes up 2 stories. And I'm like, how does one get up there to hang something or paint something? I am completely overwhelmed by this house and I don't even know where to start. So I actually had a student who is an interior designer and she had this calling in her to help moms on a budget create, like, to interior design their house but she wanted to help them do everything. And I stepped back and said to her, because this was her first product, and I was like, okay, here's the thing. As someone who has a house that still has gray walls right now and just a few pictures hung, and I have no idea where else to go with like anything, I need a place to start. I need one room to start, and I need to understand like the dimensions. I'll tell you this, I never had measured anything, I don't feel like, before, and suddenly I'm measuring everything for carpets, for if the new table will fit here, and how big can my couch be. I ordered new tape measures from Amazon because I'm like, I need a tape measure in every room in this house nowadays, it seems. And that was totally foreign to me. And I remember looking, and I told her this, I'm like, I remember looking for like some easy way that I could map, not like I think it's CAD software. I don't want to learn how to use that.
Right.
I want to learn, just give me like a spreadsheet where I can like dump dimensions and things, so I can like move things around and try to figure out how crowded, because if you tell me a room is 10 by 10, that means literally nothing to me.
Right.
I can't conceptualize that. I remember my daughter's room in this house, I was convinced is the same size as our last house. And then we got our furniture in here and I was like, what? There's so much room in here. What happened? This is like the same size I thought. I have no conception with that. So I have struggled. So anyways, back to her story. I said, listen, you give a mom who's first on a budget, she's really busy, she's already overwhelmed, and you tell her to go decorate her whole house, she is going to be, you're not going to get her a quick win with your product because she's going to be totally overwhelmed by it. So I said, what is the first room that anyone would want to decorate? And as we were brainstorming, we arrived at the living room. I'm like, well, that's where we spend the most of our time as a family. That's where I'm most of the time with my kids at night. I would love it to be a homey place. That's where I'd want to start. So that's where she started. She created her first digital product all around how to decorate and lay out your living room on a budget. Specifically, it was targeted towards moms. And that was her first product. And it was one room at a time. And I said, eventually you can have, you get a quick win. If you get your audience a quick win with their living room, they're going to be falling over themselves to know, are we doing the kitchen next? What are we doing next? And that is how that's how you bring people along on a journey, a buying journey. Because really, and I mean, this is, at least I thought that this was business 101 based on like getting my MBA and stuff, which surprisingly, a lot of people don't seem to know this until I say it, which is, it is way cheaper to sell to an existing customer than to keep acquiring new customers.
Yes. And we say that all the time at WindowWorks too. It's like, how do we sell more things to the same people?
Exactly.
They already know, like, and love us. Well, let's keep it all kumbaya and keep it going. Right?
And I would say that that's like a big reason why I've been successful at digital products, because I'm constantly, because you can look at it like this. There's this concept of an ascension ladder where you solve the first problem and then you solve the next problem. And a lot of times when people think of an ascension ladder, they think of prices going up. So, like for the girl I was working with that did the living room, eventually she could have had on the top of it, like a whole group coaching program to, a 12-week program that costs more money than the lower products. But there's an ascension ladder, but there's also something I like to call like adjacent digital products. So basically, I have attracted a certain avatar to me, and they have a multitude of problems that I can help them with. And so, like, I have the family budget spreadsheet. We just launched the Family Boss spreadsheet, which is how to manage your entire household in a spreadsheet. And so that's not about money, but it's an adjacent problem that they have. And if someone I've sold so many of the family budget spreadsheets, and in the business side, so many other types of spreadsheets. I know my audience loves spreadsheets from me. So what are other problems I can solve for that avatar? So you can look at it both ways too.
So the thing is, just to be clear, we have thousands of luxury interior designers listening to the show, and they're thinking, I don't want to teach somebody how to, decorate their living room without me. But the idea and the point is that this particular interior designer, her mission was to help moms on a budget, and she wanted them to empower them to understand how to DIY their design. That's her thing that she wanted to do. And if somebody, Monica, was more interested in luxury full service one-on-one interior design, then it might be a different digital product that they might create in order to just get the eyeballs and the people to their website and things like that. Like, for instance, I know Claire Jefford, has been on the show many times, one of the co-authors in my Power Talk Friday books. She has resources for like I don't know what they exactly are, but like the top 5 white paints, paint whites to design with, blah, blah, blah. So there's other ways and that do this, don't conflict with your ultimate, I would like you to be a luxury client. And also, having said all that, I imagine you mentioned the buying journey. I imagine there probably is a way to structure the digital products that might ultimately take somebody to the point where saying, great, I got all these now, but I really don't want to do this myself. And I've come to like and trust. Is that also a typical journey or not really?
Well, no, absolutely.
Okay.
And so it all kind of boils down to, it's like an onion. And a lot of times when we're an expert in something, and you had mentioned it earlier too, you take for granted, doesn't this just come naturally to everyone? No, it does not. Right. And so you're like, if you're a luxury designer, you're at like the core of your onion and you are the expert in that core. And you have to really peel it back to, I keep asking why do you do this? Why do you do that? And just keep peeling it back to the beginning. Like there is every topic can have a digital resource. It's just identifying the people that you want to work with you as a luxury client, that basically you want them to hire you to do it, right? That's where you're getting at. Ultimately, you're trying to attract people that are going to hire you. But I would argue 2 things. One, not every digital product has to lead to the person who wants to pay you to do it. Why not? If you already have the skills and you could put in a digital product to teach people how to DIY, it's another income stream. So you could just don't discount that and the power behind that when you already have the expertise. And if you package it up the right way, it can just work in your favor. You know?
Right.
So don't discount that. But if you're still like, no, I want people ultimately to want to hire me, then peel back the onion on what do they need to accomplish to make it easy to work with you? Is there a resource that you can give them that gets them started on the journey to understanding what they need? And then they're like, oh my gosh, this just really clarified so much for me. I need to hire you now to do this for me.
Yeah, it's so good. I mean, and I love the, keep asking why. So it's keep asking yourself why. Why do you do this? Why do you do that? Like it's almost, it's funny because you do think you come to an answer, and then when you ask the why again, you get to a different one. And if you ask it 5 times, and then what you're saying is often that's where you can uncover what your truest passion is about something, and maybe that's where you might also find alignment in something you might create. Is that what you're telling us?
Exactly. Yes, it is definitely hard to get someone who is a true expert in their field to peel back the onion. That's like a big challenge I have. One of the ways I get them to do it is we do an exercise in my program called reverse engineering. And this, just like when I created the family budget spreadsheet, I didn't really know what I was doing when I started talking about this. It just seemed like it came naturally to me. And then I realized, this does not come naturally to everyone else. And so then I put some structure around it. And that is the way I reverse engineer. I use the 3 top search engines basically in the world at this point, which is Pinterest, YouTube, and Google. And that really, the reason I use those is because Pinterest is imagery, visual, and YouTube is a video search platform. And then Google is typically text-based. Of course, you can get almost everything on Google, including images and video, but the first results are typically text-based. And so we use those 3 because they tell a different story too. Like the visual search engine, you can visually see represented in search results. You can visually see see the solution. You can imagine the solution visually, which is a different mindset than text-based, different mindset than video. But at the end of the day, a search engine, right, is somebody going and putting in their problem and hoping that the search results are going to give them a solution. That's all it is. That's what a search engine is.
Right.
So when you frame it like that, what I have people who get stuck in their expertise, go to the search engines and start searching things that come to mind, common problems somebody who would want to work with you might have. And we do this whole thing where we go through the search engines and we look at the results and we really hone in on keywords. And at the end of this, they come back to me and they're like, oh my gosh, I can create like 100 digital products today. There are so many things I can create for my person that will get them to need that ultimate service that I'm offering. Because, like, it is different when someone comes to me that already has like this, especially if they're a service provider, a service-based business, it's like that's the top. Working with you is like the top of your customer journey. It should be, right? Like getting access to you is like the premium service. So I'm asking them to strip it down to the beginning. And that is a hard thing to do versus somebody who starts at the beginning and then builds upon it. That can be easier to grasp. So it is like peeling back an onion. So getting them on the search engines really helps to break them out of their expertise mode and really gets them into, okay, what problem should I be putting into this search bar? And then they have to really, really think about that. And then they peel it back and they peel it back. And then before you know it, they're like, okay, let's create all the things. And then I have to talk them off the ledge of creating all the things.
So if I take that and I kind of imagine that little exercise in real life with a designer, what you're saying is I'm an interior designer. I just listened to you. You're saying put in these 3 different search engines, make a list of the 5, 6, 7 most common problems that my existing and past clients have come to me with. And so if I'm an interior designer, I might first stare at it and say, I don't know. I do their whole house. The whole problem is mine, right? But then when I, like you said, keep asking the why, keep asking the what, keep going further. Now all of a sudden, like you're picturing the individual conversation. And so maybe you are working with a full service luxury client and you're talking about, the floor plan for the living room and you've designed it so, da, 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 da. And maybe they say, oh, the rug is only going to be, in front of the sofa arrangement. Like, I don't know, I'm making this stuff up, right? And then you as a designer say, and they might say, I thought the rug, this whole sofa and the chairs and the tables should be on the rug, right? And maybe they should. So don't disregard me if they should, right? But my point is, you're going to answer them in that moment. You've had this conversation where you've explained to somebody why the rug is a certain size. And what you're saying, Monica, is that's the question, that slice of a moment that's been part of an 18-month full-on luxury service project, but that slice is where you had to explain why you selected the size of the rug. And now you go Google it, Pinterest, YouTube, and Google, and you learn that people are wanting to know how do they decide what size a rug should be in their room, right?
Yeah. And this actually brings up a really good point, because I'll tell you, I am someone who 3-4 years ago would never have considered hiring an interior designer. Like I said, I lived in a shoebox, and I certainly didn't have that kind of money. Like I would have thought, like, for someone like me, an interior designer raises feelings of like, that must cost a lot of money. Right.
Right.
And so it never would have crossed my mind. However, when I moved into this house, clearly things had shifted for us, and there was more liquidity going on in our lives. And I am overwhelmed by this. So I am absolutely somebody who, if I stumbled upon the right resource, like that question about rugs, I had that question. I'm like, I don't know. I never had to deal with this in a shoebox before. I had no idea. Like, why should the chair, and I still don't have accent chairs in my living room, and I'm told I probably should. I'm totally clueless to this. And if you had given me a resource to solve these basic problems that I had, I would absolutely be that one that'd be like, oh my goodness, I just need to hire this person to come and do this for me.
Right, right. And that's what it is. And I also feel like we need to take a few minutes on, you have to be prepared for the results to work. So for example, like what just hit me was, if the only thing I put out there was how to pick the size of a rug, determine the size of a rug, and I had no other blog content with resources and information, and maybe how do you pick the right gray paint, blah, blah, blah. If that was my only thing and everything else was full service luxury, I just got that same, look, I'm the same as you. I grew up in shoeboxes, and we never would have hired an interior designer either, right? So I just got that, okay, so I got that download from you, and that solved my problem. But when I look around the rest of your site, there's nothing else to keep me on the journey until I finally go, okay, sweetie, you're a big girl now. You have a real house and you've got the coin. You need to hire somebody to do this the right way. You got to keep me engaged. You can't just be like, you're full service. It's going to cost me $200,000 to do my house, and I bought a $17 download from you, right? Right? Like we got to keep.
Yes. And that's where the buying journey comes in. If you have a gap from a $17 product to, a hugely expensive, and it's not like nobody takes that leap, but let's be realistic. Very few people are going to take that leap. So that's the customer journey. That's in that model, it's the ascension model. It's building on the problems that you're solving until you get to the right place. Like you can bring them on a journey to the aha moment that they want to work with you. And I keep going back to not discounting the fact that even if not everyone ends up working with you, you're still along the way can create things that you're getting paid to. Like these are things that come naturally to you anyway. So
and with little time and effort, maybe joining one of your programs where I know you have a program where you start at the beginning with nothing, and at the end of the program, however many weeks or months it is, you have your digital product. You can build it as you go, right? So, so the thing is, like, to me, and I just want to clarify, because when I think about this customer journey that we might have an interior designer encourage somebody to start on with that entry level product, the rest of the journey in between doesn't have to be, and here's your guide on how to pick, decide what side the chandelier should be. It doesn't have to be that. If I come to your site and the site is beautiful and it's well designed and the navigation runs well, and your blog, if you just have, like, maybe to do this, you set up 10 blog posts. Maybe you're not going to blog every single week or month, right? You're a designer. You have a business to run. But if the rest of it was case studies and stories about how you help somebody, or the before and after of the right chandelier size and the wrong chandelier size. Like if I can just research and spend some time on your site, and really you're quote unquote teaching me also the size of the chandelier, but literally every piece of information I digest, I'm like, oh, I don't know that either. I knew I didn't know what size rug I needed, but I didn't know that I didn't know how to pick the hardware in my kitchen. I didn't know how to decide where the sink should go in relation to the dishwasher. And now after I read, I'm going to be like, oh, you see, this is over your head. This is like Googling your illness on the internet, sweetie. Yes. This is not going to end good. And if you're the designer that has carried me along and taught me, then, and especially if we're doing things geo-specific, right, then I have a much better chance that you might call me for the consultation call, right?
Exactly. And you're going to cater the problems that you're talking about to the person that, I'm a different target than I was 5 years ago.
Right.
And I have different problems now than I had 5 years ago in terms of decorating my house. And so if you're talking to the right person who has those problems and the initial thought process that they're having, and by the way, I've called myself the anti-blogger. And one of the reasons people love me, especially my blogging friends, is because I have I give them permission to stop blogging. I'm like, you need some pillar pieces of content because you need to have a means to attract people to you. But the end result is, like, blogging to blog is just stupid. It has to be very thoughtful, intentional content. So 10 pieces of content that solves 10 problems, that addresses 10 problems your ideal customer is going to have. That's probably even more than you need, to be honest with you.
Right.
So it's not about putting up constant content. I do not create a bunch of what I call before the firewall, paid firewall content. For years, I built my business on getting you into my world by you paying me money, period. Like, I did not spend and that's why I never worried about high traffic numbers. I always worried about the converting numbers.
Right.
Everyone that did find me on what I was willing to put out there, I was going to convert. So hyper focus on conversions has been my thing. So good.
And, I have to say, the reason that I had that kind of guess that you really don't have to blog every single week, you can have 8 or 10 really informative articles, is because I've had that experience as I've done my research for the show over the years on a potential guest. And what comes to mind is Build Lane. Build Lane did a sponsored show several months back. And we'll put the links in the show notes. But I remember when I was really going through and reading their website, there was any number of blog posts that I was like, oh, I would want to know that if I was a designer. Oh, I would want to know that if I was a designer. And I remember I didn't care if the blog came out every week. I didn't look at the date. I don't care. But it was just relevant information, I thought, to their target consumer, which is the interior design trade. And so I've had that experience, and I feel like it's a great way to keep somebody coming back to you for information, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. Love it. Love it. Love it. Okay. So, this is crazy. I could talk to you for another hour. That's where this is, because I feel like we only scratched the surface. But the idea of it is, and what I'm going to take away from this is that a couple of lessons here. Number one is that, you are like many of us. You have created a business sometimes by accident, but following a passion. But I love that you rejigger it and reframe it when it gets unattached to your passion. And then now, all these years later, you've got this clarity of, this is my superpower. I help people create digital content to sell. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so I love it. I think it's so exciting. Tell us, how do they know more about you? How do they work with you? What are the things?
All right. So we created a special link. It's monicafroese.com/AWDB for the podcast, shorthand. And basically I keep that updated with whatever's going on in the moment in our business. So it's always updated no matter when you're listening to this episode. And I would say the primary way to connect with me is I love communicating on Instagram. I answer all my DMs, and my Instagram handle is monica.froese.
Okay. And spell Froese just for us, so we've got it.
Yes, it's Froese.
Right. Okay. So Monica, Froese.com. Okay. /AWDB. Great. We will have all of this in the show notes. Honest to God, I think you might have to come back, because I feel like I have 90,000 other questions, but we will not press my friend's attention span right now today. And thank you so much. I love learning the journey. I love knowing that you work in your superpower, and I love that you've had the courage to just keep redefining what that is and staying in that lane. So yay all day, Monica. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me.
I could have just kept going and asking her more and more questions, because everything that Monica was talking about just really was intriguing me. During our conversation, I was torn between wanting to let my own mind wander, so I could figure out what digital product I might want to create, and absolutely being enthralled by every bit of knowledge that she was telling us. Now, let's talk for a minute on how she got started. I admire when people turn a hardship into something to fuel themselves and go forward and teach others. Postpartum struggles can be devastating, but Monica wasn't one to let that go. And as you know, my own daughter, Christy, has faced her own struggles with postpartum depression and mental health challenges, and now has her own podcast, turning her journey into a way to help others going through the same struggles into something positive, right? If you are facing anxiety, depression, or other mental health issues, I highly encourage you to visit her podcast, Sass Says. In fact, I would say even if you yourself do not experience any of these struggles, but maybe has a loved one who does, take a listen. I have learned so much about what goes on and what challenges, like what the perspective is like for those who suffer from mental struggles through the conversations and the insights of Christy and her guests, okay? Despite having had many one-on-one conversations with Christy directly, it's different. The layers come out, and the layers come out as she discusses it with the guests on the show, and they add insights and perspectives that maybe I had not thought about, okay? And so it's been very helpful, and I encourage you to listen as well. On another side note, May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and my daughter Christy will be my guest this month on Inside Voice, Outside Voice. We will be discussing managing and showing compassion for yourself and your team members who experience mental health challenges while all the while trying to be a productive business owner, parent, all the things, right? So go to insidevoiceoutsidevoice.com to register. Now, Monica, you can hear the way that she talks in starting out and her first foray into creating digital projects that her career in corporate marketing paid off, right? But she kept emphasizing something that I want to make sure you heard, that all she ever was doing was creating something to solve someone's problem, right? That's the heart of it. That's the heart of business in general. When we can learn to recognize what problems our target clients have and how we can solve them, this is how we become valuable to them. This digital product avenue is a whole different ballgame. It's something that I know many of you are tapping into, but wherever you are doing business, whether it's in person, digitally, the key is solving problems. It reminds me of Kristen Rivoli, who was on the show, episode 701. She talked about how she had built a passive income stream as a designer, selling curated designs under the name Rooms by Rivoli. She emphasized that this process was a lot of work up front, but it gave her more freedom in her life and her business, and she was able to establish a passive income train, right? Amanda Hamilton, Claire Jefford, Ariane Belazar, Maria Killam, Sandra Funk, these are all others that come to mind that are selling digital products, I should say. Now, we'll put links to all of their episodes in the show notes. So if you're thinking of expanding on this, not only avail yourself of Monica and her advice, but also these other episodes as well. I love the idea she tossed out about using the search engines to tap into what your clients are looking for, because it takes you out of your head, right? As a designer, you might think of what you're offering so massive and cohesive that it can't be broken down, but really you can easily provide some small solutions to help bring potential clients in through the door, all right? Whether it's how to decide to buy an area rug or create a certain aesthetic. So this might be the time to get into this, right? To work on bringing in another revenue stream or a way to get clients into your circle and start to build trust. Make sure you visit the link that Monica set up, Monica Froese, FROESE.com/AWDB, and check out our products and courses, freebies, all the things, right? I hope that you're able to see a way to incorporate digital products into your business. I hope you're able to see those whispers and listen to those whispers that Monica mentioned to uncover what people around you are looking for. And most of all, I hope that you decide to be excellent.
Thank you for joining me today. This podcast is a production of LuAnn and Monica, Inc. If you'd like to know more about me, my books, or LuAnn University, go to LuAnnandMonica.com. And if you want to learn more about exciting windows, where you can get education and resources to build a better window treatment business, go to excitingwindows.biz. Have an excellent day.